Welcome back, everyone. This is the wrap-up session for GBTA 2018. We're in the BCD Travel booth, broadcasting with Tnooz, and this is it. We've done 3 days now, y'all.
Yes.
So we're going to try to wrap up and talk about a few of the things that we saw while we were here for 3 days. I've got Andy Menkes with us. Andy is the SVP of Global Client Services, or Global Client Solutions with BCD Travel. And I've got Amy Dalton here, and she's SVP of the Americas. So I thought I'd start by asking you guys, both of you are talking to a lot of customers, and you're talking to a lot of prospects. And what are you hearing on the streets? What are you hearing from our clients at the booth? What are they telling you?
Oh my gosh. You know what? It's been a great event. So we've heard a lot of great things. I think clients are the big thing that we're kind of been talking to them about is how do we take all of our great innovation and technology and service and put it together, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the themes that we've been hearing, right, quite a bit the last few days is how do I keep all my corporate travelers compliant and in my program, and yet how do I give them all these choices here that's been at the booth,
the
right?
Conundrum.
The conundrum of technology and solutions, and so how do I bring that together, right? So that's really been kind of a theme for me of customers coming up and wanting to see, help me put that together. So that's been really interesting.
How about you, Andy?
Well, from what I've seen, we've had over 7,000 registered attendees here.
Huge.
And for the buyers, I think it's a bit overwhelming in terms of the choices and the options.
That's right.
So we're finding there's more of a reliance on a travel technology expert, such as BCD, to help identify which are the startups that may not make it, which are the ones that have value, and then how do you integrate it into a program and make it successful.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a woman as I was crossing the street coming into the conference this morning, and you can tell, because in San Diego, we're all running around the same area. Everyone's got a big giant name tag on. And I just sort of started talking to her, and she's been coming to GBTA for almost 2 decades, and she said, reminded me that back in the day at GBTA conferences, the trade show was really card companies, large travel management companies, airlines and hotels and rental cars and chauffeured car transportation. And now it's a whole different scene. You've got tech players, you have innovators, you have startups buying booths, you've got kind of technology niche players. It's completely changed the complexion, right, of the program and also the trade show floor. And I think that's a little bit of what you were saying, is that it's a little overwhelming. There's so much to see, and how do you even begin? 10 years ago, you would visit a couple online booking tools, right?
Yeah.
And maybe your credit card provider, your TMC, and a couple airlines, test out some seats, and now you're actually looking at technology.
Right.
You're looking at all sorts of different solutions.
Yeah, I had a customer also say the same thing, that they said that they need more time to vet out the trade show. Like, when's the first time in 10 years
that's right.
people want more time at the trade show, right? To kind of vet it out.
And I've got a couple of decades under my belt of being at GBTA conferences. I would say the difference is back then, the focus was on what prizes and tchotchkes and everything else they could get from the booths. Now buyers are spending their time in the booth looking to learn what's out there.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. And what did you come to this conference kind of top of mind for you? What are you here personally and professionally to achieve here at this conference?
Gosh, the list is long always. But I think a couple of things. For me, this is the opportunity for me as a commercial owner at BCD to try to see all my customers in one place and be able to try to help them with some of that kind of next generation travel. Meaning, how do we bring it all together, right? How do we bring all this technology? How do we bring service together? How do we bring some of the things that we're talking about in the market space? And I think it's a great opportunity because we've got our leaders here and our senior leaders here.
All of them.
And so we've got our technology experts. So it allows us the opportunity to kind of sit around a table and have great dialogue about how do we bring them forward. And so for me, it's a great place I can do that with all my customers.
And I've been watching you work a little bit in the booth, and it's kind of a nice process watching you kind of welcome the client, give them a hug, sit down, have a nice chat, and then you bring over our president. And then you bring over the CEO, and everyone gets to introduce each other and meet each other and establish that relationship. It's very, very nice to watch. What about you, Andy? What did you come here doing, looking for?
The answer on the personally side was to validate why I made the move over to BCD. It's been 2 months. I've been on the buyer side and on the consultant side.
Right.
And the experience was different because for the first time I stayed in one booth. Instead, although I did get around a little bit on the tram. So the goal for me was to help get the BCD message out to those that know me but may not know BCD that well, and also get to work with my new colleagues, because I've known them from the other side. Now I'm part of the team.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's true. So what do you think is the state of the corporate travel industry, Amy? How would you sum it up right now?
Oh, I think, well, and I think Andy just said it at the beginning. I think there is great optimism and excitement, but I think there's also kind of this fear of, how do I make all of this work, right? What does this mean in terms of all of this technology, right? So how do I make that work in my program, right? And so I think everybody's excited about seeing what the solutions are, but I think everybody's got that kind of fear, a little bit in dread of like, how do I bring that to life for my program? And so as I've talked to customers and been around the booths, I think that's what everybody, as he mentioned in the beginning, I think that's what everybody's kind of struggling with a little bit. So I think that's definitely on the forefront.
What about you?
Well, I sat at the general session where Billie Jean King spoke, and she talked about how challenges are actually opportunities. And I don't know of anyone of the 7,000 that doesn't have a challenge with a travel program, whether they be a buyer or a supplier. So this is a great opportunity for the parties to get together and identify solutions that benefit the traveler, the shareholder, and ultimately those that have to arrange the travel as well, because it's really three constituents.
Yeah.
You know, I'll make my own observation. I was on a panel discussion, right? So, and I do it often enough where I often am talking on a stage and I see a giant audience, right? And I can gauge kind of their body movements and how they react to the things I'm saying. And I see more and more nodding in the audience when I start talking about things like flexibility. Don't hit the ROI button right away. Don't hit the global button right away. And finding ways to make use of pockets of innovation, being brave and taking a chance, right? And that's often, you know, one of the things that we deal with when we work with our customers is we might have a great idea or great innovation, but it works in a single country, a single location, or it's a niche piece, and we want to try to move the industry ahead, but everyone wants to hit that global button, right? So I'm noticing as I'm on these panels now and watching the audience, more and more people are buying into the fact of like, you know, we can capitalize on pockets of innovation. We can take a few more risks. And I think that's changed a lot in the last, I don't know, 10 or 8 years.
Yeah, I think Yanis has been telling our technology developer, has been telling clients, just dip your toe in the water, right? So don't boil the ocean, but just try to dip your toe in the water of taking some initial steps, like you said, versus like this big, you know.
We don't need to roll it out in 148 countries on day one. Let's just start with one.
Yeah, and I think when you kind of compartmentalize it a little bit and kind of make it in bite size, I think people can kind of get behind that, right? They can go, all right, it's not so scary. I can implement a few things in the digital space and kind of step into it.
But we are in such a mature stage of, you know, the consolidation era, right? Like you look at the late 90s, the early 2000s, all the big corporate consolidated programs finally consolidated, and they're all comfortable now consolidated globally, right? And now we're trying to, again, like a decade later, say, well, why don't we just try something new over here and over there? So it's courage on both parts, right? Okay. All right, so clients are driving a lot of our changes, right? I mean, they drive a lot of change. So can you talk about how clients are driving change in your world?
Yeah, oh gosh, there's so much change happening, as we talked about, and I think one of the big changes is just how we service customers going forward in terms of where we have employees based, what kind of languages we're speaking, what kind of tools travelers can use to access us, right? So again, gone are the days where it's a matter of, oh, I've either got to pick up the phone or I've got to send an email maybe. It's now, maybe I can chat with you, maybe I can text with you, maybe, you know, I can SMS you some sort of kind of request in. And so I think travel organizations are trying to figure out how to kind of meet that need, right? In terms of how do we interface with those customers? So I think for us is the customers are saying, how do I get them into your channel any way they want to come in? How do I put technology and give them tools and solutions, right? And then they go out with a similar experience across the globe. Very hard, right?
Actually, we were talking to David Coppins, who's EVP of Global Operations yesterday, and he was talking about how, you know, service models are starting to change, and you know, the global virtual contact centers. He said, you know, 10 years ago we used to talk a lot about where are my agents physically,
right?
And the conversation is not about that anymore.
No,
not at all.
It's about how we give the tools for people to come into the channel, right? So you give the traveler the ability to come in any way they want to come in.
Yeah, and along those lines, the expression used to be "follow the sun," which is it was linear based on how the sun was setting.
Yeah.
I like to think that it's now more about follow the customer.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Did you just coin a term?
I did.
Okay. Market, internet.
Yeah, patent.
How are clients driving what your world is like? I know you've just been here a couple months, but you've been
Right.
dedicated to clients your entire career.
The last 17 years, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been a buyer, I've been a supplier. I'd say that the big difference I'm seeing now is a recognition that cost cutting in travel, if it goes too far, will actually negatively impact the bottom line.
That's right.
Because when you start to impact employee productivity, when you make travel uncomfortable, you drive non-compliance, and also you'll have attrition of employees.
Right.
And we've seen studies that the majority of travelers indicated that if they were to switch jobs, it would be because of travel policy.
Yeah.
So cost savings makes sense for the shareholders, but if you cut out too much of costs, you're going to impact quality, you're going to impact employee productivity and traveler friction.
That's right.
And so if you take it too far, you may save money next year, but you may lose a good chunk of your best employees.
Yeah.
It's back to that, what we said, it's back to that, how do you give them choice, but keep them compliant,
Right.
right? It's a big theme here.
Yeah, yeah,
It's definitely
absolutely.
a big theme here.
So, Andy, you were talking to me earlier about attending Reggie Agarwal's session at the general session from Cvent. I actually heard about it from a lot of people. I wasn't around, I was busy running around doing this. But it moved people. So can you tell the audience, like, what was that all about? Why was it so good?
Sure, well, it moved me too, and I know Reggie and a lot more people know Cvent.
Yeah.
He gave his background and story, how he borrowed money from his family to start a business, was nearly bankrupt, had $300,000 in credit card debt, almost went bankrupt the second time, but he persevered. And I think there was the proverb that if you fall down 8 times, you get up 9. And he eventually built the company into a very profitable,
Huge.
large company because he focused on his employees and his customers.
We obsess about our customers.
Yes.
That's how I like to say it. We
Yes.
obsess
Yes.
about them.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think the future holds for business travel? What do you think we'll be talking about next year when we sit here at GBTA?
Go ahead.
I would say among the major topics are going to be artificial intelligence and bots. And on the other side will be self-directed travel and especially trip disruption.
Talk about self-directed travel. What does
The
that
ability to control your trip with your thumb.
Yeah.
With
Okay.
your thumb.
Self-service tools. I think everything's moving self-service. And so how do we, again, give travelers choices of using different tools and technologies and solutions? So I think that's going to continue. I think Andy's right. I think that's going to continue to be the theme.
And I just as a side note, editorial on my part, I hate the word self-service.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it, and I think it reminds me of, the early 2000s when we were all in cost-cutting mode, and we just said, well, why don't we just make our employees do it? We'll give them a self-service tool, and it's cheaper.
Right.
I feel like we need a new word to describe the concept. Is it digital enablement? And I'm also a former consultant, so I talk I talk in good words.
The only self-service that I would consider a good one, as you said it, is I hated standing in line at a bank to get cash. Using an ATM has value.
Yes.
So if it's self-service, that's better than waiting to talk to the next person. There might be some value
a
to it.
material increase in experience.
Right.
Okay. What does the future hold? Anything new? I asked you what we're going to be talking about next year. You answered. How about you?
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think the other thing is, I think we're going to see service models continue to change, right?
Yes.
In terms of how we...
And I've heard that a few times.
Of how we service our customers in terms of consolidation or non-consolidation, and not worrying so much about, like you said, brick and mortar or where people sit, but about how people have the tools to service you anywhere.
That's right.
So I do think that's going to be relevant.
Yeah, the other idea that comes to mind is I don't think we'll be talking about the TMC anymore, just like we stopped talking about the travel agency and morphed to a TMC. It's going to be a mobility partner that can take all these divergent technologies and processes and somehow vet them, pull them all together to create a seamless user experience. And I see that's a role for BCD.
Yeah.
Any TMC can issue a ticket. It takes a special kind of company to customize a program for a client.
Bingo. Yep. Okay. You got a couple hours left in this conference. What are you looking forward to?
Gosh, you know what? I've seen a lot of clients, so I'm looking forward to kind of packing it up and heading home.
Because we are business travelers.
We
travel a
absolutely
lot.
are. We're
we have a
road
lot of
warriors.
empathy. We are road warriors.
We are road warriors.
We have a lot
like
of
the rest
empathy
of
for the folks that we take care
yeah.
of, right?
So I'm anxious.
So you want to get home?
Yeah, I want to get home and kind
unpack,
of
do your laundry, repack your bag to go on your next trip.
Yeah, kind of refresh, reflect. We got lots of good follow-ups from the last few days and some great actions, and then we start traveling again and get back at it.
I know. My next trip is next week.
Yeah, get back at it.
How about you? What are you looking forward to next couple hours?
This flight will be segment 75 for the year for me. I'm looking forward to making my connection.
75 flights.
75
since
flights.
January.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm looking forward to is following up on all the great contacts, friends, relationships that I've collected cards or made notes on, so that we can continue the momentum. Here's where you meet and re-meet people.
Right.
The real key is how you follow up.
Absolutely.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, but it's been a great conference.
It has.
It's been a really great conference. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, great backdrop, but great conference also.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a great city.
Yeah, and a great city.
Nice
San Diego
combo,
is
nice combo.
prime
Yeah.
for a conference. Okay. Well, that's all we have for today. We really appreciate you joining us. That is the end of GBTA 2018. And we appreciate your time, so thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's Martin Cowan, Editorial Director of Tnooz, wrapping up the wrap-up. That was a great way to round things off. I'm going to work very hard on the flight back to come up with a different term for self-service.
Self-service, we need a new word.
But I did like the phrase Miriam Pockets of Innovation. I think that's quite a nice idea, a nice way to wrap up what's happening around here. I think there's a partnership ecosystem, which is a phrase that I've developed that I'm going to be working on. I think what I've picked up from GBTA is that there is a lot more partnerships happening, and businesses that might not necessarily have worked with each other 2 or 3 years ago are now finding that, looping into the idea of pockets of innovation, there is ways that businesses can work together to be better individually and collectively, and I think that's one of the things I've picked up from GBTA. And just sat here, it's my first time at GBTA, sat here in the BCD booth, I can see airlines, I can see hotels, I can see tech providers, I can see credit cards. The whole business, corporate travel ecosystem is becoming one, but there does need to be businesses such as BCD Travel that can help you sift it, sort out the noise, and get to what it is that you actually want, which is not unrelated to the whole personalization of travel. We all want what we want, and technology and businesses such as BCD Travel can help do that. So we've been here, this is tnoozLIVE at GBTA. We've been presented by BCD Travel, so thanks very much BCD Travel for supporting this.
It's been our pleasure.
Yes.
Thanks very much for everybody who's tuned in, particularly anybody that's not on Pacific time. I admire your commitment to the project. And also thanks to the interviewees. We've talked to 20 plus people from across the business travel ecosystem. So we've had the blue chip tech providers, we've had the nimble startups, we've had representatives from BCD, we've had some expense solution providers, a couple of credit cards, some ground transportation. So yeah, the whole ecosystem has been represented. We're going to be slicing and dicing the interviews. They'll be posted as discrete little clips onto our YouTube channel, so keep an eye on tnoos.com for details of how to access them. And yeah, what else can I say? Thanks very much, and yeah, keep an eye on Tnooz. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.